The story of humans is a story of change. It's a long journey stretching back millions of years. We didn't always look like we do now. Imagine a time when our ancestors lived in trees. They were more like apes than humans. This is where our story begins. Over time, these ancestors changed. They evolved. They came down from the trees and began to walk upright. Their brains grew larger. They learned to make tools. They discovered fire. Step by step, they became more like us. This journey wasn't a straight line. There were many twists and turns. Different human species appeared. Some thrived for a while and then vanished. But each step brought us closer to who we are today, Homo sapiens, the modern human. We share a common ancestor with apes like chimpanzees and gorillas. Think of them as our distant cousins. But millions of years ago, our evolutionary paths diverged. A new group emerged, the hominins. These early hominins still looked a lot like apes. They were small and furry, but something crucial had changed. They started walking on two legs. This was a big deal. Bipedalism, as it's called, freed up their hands. They could use them for carrying things like food or tools. This was a key step towards becoming human. One of the most famous early hominins is Australopithecus afarensis. We know them from fossils like Lucy, discovered in Ethiopia. Lucy lived about 3.2 million years ago. She was small, only about 3.5 feet tall. Her brain was still quite small compared to ours, but she walked upright just like us. This tells us that bipedalism evolved early in our history. Another important early hominin was Sahelanthropus tchadensis. This species lived even earlier, around 7 million years ago. They lived in what is now Chad in Central Africa. Though we only have a few fossils, they give us clues about this early stage of human evolution. Around 2.5 million years ago, a new group of hominins emerged, the genus Homo. The first member was Homo habilis, meaning handyman. They were given this name because they were the first hominins to make and use stone tools. These tools were simple, but they were a major breakthrough. Homo habilis used them for cutting meat and smashing bones. This allowed them to access new food sources and expand their diet. This change in diet was important. It provided more energy, which may have contributed to the growth of their brains. Homo habilis had larger brains than earlier hominins. Homo erectus appeared around 1.9 million years ago. They were taller and had larger brains than Homo habilis. They also made more sophisticated tools, including hand axes, but perhaps their most remarkable achievement was leaving Africa. Homo erectus was the first hominin species to migrate out of Africa and spread to other parts of the world. They reached Europe and Asia. This migration was a testament to their adaptability. They learned to survive in different environments, from the cold of Europe to the tropics of Southeast Asia. The Neanderthals were a distinct human species that lived in Europe and parts of Asia. They evolved from earlier populations that had migrated out of Africa. Neanderthals were stocky and muscular, well adapted to the cold climates of Ice Age Europe. They were skilled hunters and toolmakers. They even buried their dead, suggesting complex social behavior. Neanderthals and modern humans coexisted for a time. We even interbred, which is why some people today carry Neanderthal DNA. But around 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals disappeared. The reasons for their extinction remain a mystery. Our own species emerged in Africa around 300,000 years ago. We looked very similar to modern humans, but what set us apart was our unique cognitive abilities. Developed more complex language and abstract thought. They created art, jewelry, and musical instruments. They developed sophisticated hunting techniques and social structures. Around 70,000 years ago, began to migrate out of Africa. They eventually populated every corner of the globe, outcompeting other human species they encountered. Several factors drove human evolution. One was bipedalism, which freed up our hands for tool use. Another was the growth of our brains, which allowed for complex thought and language. Tool use itself played a crucial role. It allowed us to access new food sources and adapt to different environments. Fire provided warmth, protection, and a way to cook food, further changing our diet and behavior. But perhaps the most important factor was our ability to cooperate. developed complex social structures, and learned to work together in large groups. This gave us a huge advantage over other species. So, what makes us unique? It's not just our intelligence or our ability to make tools. Many animals possess these traits to some degree. Our uniqueness lies in our capacity for abstract thought, language, and social cooperation on a scale unseen in any other species. We can imagine things that don't exist, share complex ideas, and build vast networks of cooperation. This sapient spark allowed us to conquer the planet, build civilizations, and even journey into space. It's a story of remarkable change from those first steps out of the trees to our place as the dominant species on Earth, and it's a story that continues to unfold today.